Well, good afternoon, everybody. It is a special session of the Montgomery County Council right now. It is a Friday afternoon, and it is a Good Friday here because we are joined by our good friend and our esteemed Senator Chris Van Hollen to join us to meet the new council, a majority of whom are new, a majority of whom are female. And it is so important for us to have a conversation with the senator, who we call a constituent and a friend. And there's a lot of good things that are going on Capitol Hill right now. And Senator, I have some additional comments and thoughts I'll share later, but want to turn it over to you as this newly constituted 11-member council gets to be more acquainted with you and gets to help you in your work on Capitol Hill.
Well, thank you, and congratulations to you and on leading the council as president for the session, and to Vice President Council Friedson, and to all of you. It's great to be with you, and congratulations. Congratulations to the returning members who got reelected, and of course, congratulations to all the new members of this historic council. And I really look forward to working with all of you. As you know better than me, we all are serving the same constituents, and there are times you will get calls that deal with federal issues, just like there are times that we will get calls that deal with more local and council-related issues. And so keeping open lines of communication on constituent matters obviously helps all of our constituents, and keeping in touch on issues that we're working on at the federal level that relate to what's happening in Montgomery County obviously is important, and vice versa. So I look forward to continue to work with those of you who are returning, and to working with the new members as well, many of whom I've known and worked with for many years in other capacities. And I do want to, Ashima Talwar, who's the head of our Maryland office, is with us. Many of you worked for years with Joan Kleiman, who did an amazing job. But one of the great things Joan Kleiman did was mentor Ashima, who had served in that office when I was in the House, and then went off to law school and practiced law, and now is back with us and just doing a fantastic job. So for those of you who have not met Ashima, I hope you'll get a chance to know her as well. So what I thought I'd do is just give you a brief sketch of opportunities I think that exist from bills we passed in the last 2 years, and then talk about some of the things that are happening now, and then welcome your questions and comments. So the good news, as you know, is in the last 2 years, we were able to accomplish a lot in the United States Congress, and of course with President Biden and Vice President Harris. Democrats had very slim majorities, but we were able to use those majorities, sometimes passing bipartisan legislation, and sometimes passing legislation just with the Democrats. And as a result of that, a lot of what will happen in the next 2 years in terms of federal action will be the federal agencies trying to make sure that we get all the funds up and running and programs implemented. And we look forward to working with you to make sure that we're all aware of what's happening, what the terms of these programs are, because that will have a direct impact on all of us. The American Rescue Plan was, of course, the very first big bill we passed with the new President Biden right after he was sworn in, and you have put that to good use in Montgomery County. I think it was over $204 million total for the county. By our count, maybe we even got this from you, you have about $10 million left. The rest, I understand, is either spent or obligated. But for that last $10 million, by the way, we increased the flexibility of the spending even more. One of the things we did in December was say, in the infrastructure category, in addition to spending those monies on broadband or water and sewer, you can spend them on transportation projects as well. Because there were a lot of counties and a number of states that have large unexpended balances, and we wanted to make sure they had additional flexibility. So I did want to flag that. I don't know if my number is exactly right on how much of that fund is left in Montgomery County's budget. But you have until 2024, as you know, to expend that. Infrastructure modernization bill, a huge piece of legislation, as you know, $7 billion coming to the state of Maryland. So I'm sure you're tracking all of that with the help of our state legislators. And there are lots of opportunities, of course, for Montgomery County transportation projects. On top of the money that's guaranteed to flow to the state under those formulas, the $7 billion, there's also $150 billion federal fund for competitive grants. And Montgomery County's already been successful at securing some of those funds with all of your help. $14.8 million, for example, for the new grid for buses, and there'll be lots of more opportunities down the road. So we look forward to collaborating with all of you as you submit proposals. You and the county submit proposals to the federal agencies going forward. I'm not going to go in detail into the CHIPS and Science Act, only to say that it authorizes a lot more money for NIST, but we still need to appropriate those monies on that part of that bill. So, but it does create a lot of opportunities in the area, obviously, of science and STEM implementation. Another bill, of course, the Inflation Reduction Act. Montgomery County was one of the first, if not the first, counties in the country to establish its own green bank, green financing piece. We are in the midst right now of working with the EPA, which ended up with jurisdiction over the latest version of the Green Bank, or Clean Energy Financing Authority, something I worked on for 15 years when I first introduced the Green Bank, National Green Bank. We're hoping that will be structured in a way that at least one of the networks that they will utilize to deploy some of those funds are the existing green banks in the country, both local and state. So there may be opportunities there as well. We'll just have to see. This is a work in progress, but I did want to just mention that because of Montgomery County's Green Bank. Like all of you, have been very frustrated with the delays on Purple Line. In my view, really badly managed at the state level, but the federal government has continued to support that with a $1.7 billion TIFIA loan just to make sure that we continue our efforts there. The last two things I want to mention in terms of what's in the pipeline. One is, we reinvigorated, as many of you know, all of you know, what we call earmarks in the old days. I still call them earmarks, but direct federal spending. And over the last 2 years, we've been successful at securing substantial, in the scheme of things, funds for Montgomery County important projects, including 22 million total in this most recent bill we passed in December for lots of good causes that many of you also support in Montgomery County. Finally, ARPA-H. Like you, we very much like to bring it to Maryland, and obviously we have a natural ecosystem right here in Montgomery County. There was a big effort to prevent ARPA-H from having its headquarters anywhere in the Washington region. We have a lot of other states that wanted to artificially take the opportunity away. We want to be able to compete just like any other jurisdiction. Now, the ARPA site will not be on the campus of the NIH because the idea is it's a separate entity, but it does have obviously lots of connections potentially to work going on at NIH. So we are continue to work with you to try to make sure that it lands in a space with a natural ecosystem like here. So those are a couple things that I just wanted to flag going forward. I mentioned at the outset that we got a lot done the last 2 years, and that's especially important because it's going to be a lot harder in the next 2 years. That's not meant as a political statement. It's just a statement of reality. When you've got I think everyone witnessed what happened in the House of Representatives. Obviously, Republicans have a majority, a very tight majority, and we saw 15 rounds of voting before Speaker McCarthy got the gavel. What that means, you know the political math. What that means is some of the most extreme members of the Republican Party in the House essentially can call the shots on many pieces of legislation and can use that leverage with the Speaker to try to impose a very right-wing agenda in the House. Now, it won't get through the Senate. But there's some things we have to do, and you've already been hearing a lot about it. You'll be hearing a lot more about paying our national bills on time and the issue of the debt ceiling, and that political drama is playing out as we speak. And I was in the House during the last time we witnessed this back in 2011. I was very, very involved in what became known as they were the Biden talks. He was vice president. He came down to the Hill. There was a small group of us, bicameral, bipartisan, tried to hammer out a deal, and despite best efforts, we were not able to do that. And the United States almost went over the waterfall. Standard & Poor's, for the first time in our history, downgraded U.S. debt, American government debt, and interest rates actually began to rise because the markets got nervous that we might not be paying our national bills on time as we have throughout our history. So this will come to a head. I mean, we've already gone over the debt limit. Technically, we're using what are called extraordinary measures to manage it. We expect, according to Secretary Yellen, to not be able to pay our bills by sometime in June or July if we don't fix this and get the debt ceiling increased. So that's the kind of issue we're having to prepare for right now, even as we try to work on other measures going forward. So it's great to be with you. Congrats to all of you again, and look forward to the conversation now and to staying in touch.
Sure. Well, thank you for all of that and for the update, and also sharing with us, remembering your days as ranking member on the House Budget Committee during those talks a decade or so ago. And Senator, I just want to take a point of personal privilege before I ask my question, just to personally thank you for my husband and I, for you and all your colleagues in the Senate for passing the Respect for Marriage Act and getting marriage equality law of the land. I was honored to be at the White House when that was signed, and glad we got that through. So thank you. And
thank you.
Also the $200 million, just a little more than $200 million. Thank you for that. Your information was correct as always, and we have been using those funds wisely to keep our residents healthy, safe, and housed. And anything that can be done to keep some of those efforts would be greatly appreciated. But I want to pick up on the point that you ended on regarding ARPA-H. And thank you for your continued fight to make sure that Montgomery County remains a viable option for this federal installation as a member of the Appropriations Committee. And I know a number of us all across the county council and county government are working with private stakeholders as well to make the best case for ARPA-H to come to Montgomery County, to come to Montgomery County, a location that can't be matched anywhere else in the world because of our federal agencies and academic hubs, and for all the reasons you enumerated. Is there anything more at play that you can maybe share with us regarding the status of the locations? And what I have heard is, and what you alluded to, is that Montgomery County's got a lot, and quite possibly they want to look for other locations. And while also the Capital Region has the FBI headquarters still in the hunt too. And so I know there's a lot on your plate. Quite frankly, I think we all think we're deserving of these headquarters. But is there any more insight or lifting of the veil that you can share with us?
Well, you described the situation well, which is that we are continuing to advocate, on behalf of Maryland and made the case for all the assets that are here in Montgomery County. But I don't have any more information right now. The way that it was left in the language of the omnibus bill was we got rid of the language that essentially prohibited it from being cited in the National Capital Region. There is a provision that says that in addition to the headquarters of ARPA-H, that there will be, I think it was 2 or 3 satellite offices that ARPA-H would, and they would have the ability to decide where to locate those. But as to where the mothership goes, it's still not, they have not determined that. But we're continuing to press, and you should continue to make the case as to why, Montgomery County, why Maryland has these important assets.
Well, we will continue making that case alongside you, and also appreciate Ashima for all of her work and collaboration and coordination too. So I'm going to turn it over to colleagues now, and if anyone has any questions or comments, please text me since we're virtual. I'll turn it over to Council Vice President Friedson.
Thank you, Council President. Thank you, Senator. Thank you to Ashima and your whole team. We really are lucky to have you in the United States Senate. We're incredibly grateful to have your entire team working together with us to serve county residents. And want to thank you for all of your work in general, ARPA-H specifically. All of us are here to support you. You see a lot of nodding heads, and anything that we can do to help with that effort, we are here to support it. It obviously should be in Montgomery County. It makes natural sense to be in Montgomery County, and we are here to help you to make sure that that happens. But we appreciate you fighting for us and for this important infrastructure piece that we want. I want to ask you specifically about housing vouchers. We just had a briefing at the County Council on rental housing. The latest numbers of the Housing Opportunities Commission is a 37,000 person wait list for housing vouchers just in the Montgomery County Housing Opportunities Commission wait list. That's approximately 6.5 years for a family or a resident who is in need to be able to actually get through the program and the process. I know that President Biden and Senate Democrats have been working on that. The Build Back Better Act had significant funding for that. Even that, I'll note, I think was 2,800 additional vouchers for Maryland, about 6,000 residents approximately. We have even bigger needs than that, of course, and just wanted to get a sense from you on whether or not you thought there would be any opportunities moving forward to reintroduce additional funding for housing vouchers specifically, and then the broader rental relief as well that you noted earlier. We've benefited from about $100 million in federally funded rent relief that has really helped our residents get through challenging times. Our average budget in a normal year is $4 million for rent relief. It's $40 million thanks to federal funding. That money is now basically accounted for. The program has just stopped accepting new applications, as was recently announced, and so we desperately need additional support from you and your colleagues in Congress, and just wanted to get a sense from you. I know you're a supporter and you're advocating, but what your sense is of whether or not we actually could get the relief that we need and the support that we would need to meet the needs of the community.
Sure. Thank you for the question, Councilmember Friedson, and for your leadership on this and other issues. So, as you said, the demand is huge, and one of the big parts of the Build Back Better agenda that did not ultimately make it through the process was a significant increase in federal support for affordable housing in the form of additional vouchers, an additional building as well of affordable housing, public housing. So we have not given up. We're continuing to push forward. I expect that the budget submitted by President Biden will contain an increase, a proposed increase in funds for Section 8 and other housing vouchers. I've introduced in the last couple sessions a bipartisan bill called the Family Stability Act that would dramatically boost the number of federal vouchers. That's been a bill I've introduced with Todd Young, who's a Republican senator from Indiana. But when when that piece of the Build Back Better agenda didn't go through, our bill proposal, which we had hoped to essentially insert into that legislation, did not pass either. We are going to reintroduce it. We're having negotiations with Senator Young as to some changes. But I will tell you that it's going to, if we can get it through the Senate, it's still going to be very hard to get it through this House of Representatives. Because I think what we're going to see, in fact, is the opposite pressure in the opposite direction. We haven't seen yet what their proposal is. We've been asking them to show the country what their budget priorities are, as they've threatened not to allow us to pay our bills on time. But they haven't done that. But we do know from past experience that one of the areas that they've proposed to cut is housing vouchers, even though we face a real affordable housing crisis in the country. And as you mentioned, the emergency rental assistance that was provided under the American Rescue Plan, which was such an important lifeline to millions of families around the country and families throughout Montgomery County, that is expired. The emergency funding is now expired. So we look forward to working with you on different strategies to try to ensure that there's more affordable housing. But I'll keep pushing. We got a bipartisan bill to keep pushing, but obviously at the end of the day, we need the majority votes in the House and the Senate and the House.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Vice
And
President.
we have to keep looking for creative ways as well. As you know, Montgomery County has this, an ordinance for, in terms of zoning and affordable housing, one of the most creative in the country. Obviously, it doesn't produce the scale of affordable housing we'd like, but it is an important tool.
Our inclusionary zoning was nation leading when it was created, and I think it needs some updating, right? Councilmember Albornoz.
Thank you, Council President Glass. Good to see you, Senator Van Hollen. I'll say it's always sunny in Kensington. So,
yes, it is.
And we so appreciate your continued leadership. And Ashima is doing a fantastic job, fantastic partner with each of our respective offices. And so you're well represented, sir, here in Montgomery County. I just had 2 quick points. And we, as a community, were the first and for a long time the only jurisdiction that stepped up to address the migrants that were coming indiscriminately being sent from Texas and Arizona in particular. And I am so proud of our partners in the Department of Health and Human Services. We have served to date over 5,000 men and women and children who have been, many of which on their way to another destination, but some of which have stayed here. And we are partnering with several community-based organizations. And the District of Columbia in the last 2 months has really stepped up and assisted to a large degree. But we really need to continue the need and support of our federal partners, not just from a resource standpoint, but to address this issue across the board. It's become this awful, toxic political football. And lives are at stake and lives are being impacted by this every day. You've been an outspoken supporter of revamping our immigration laws and supporting our residents here in Montgomery County, regardless of their immigration status. And so thank you so much for that continued effort. But any thoughts or reflections from a federal perspective on what I know is a very complex issue, and any support you can provide us here locally would be very welcome. Thank you so much, Senator.
Well, thank you, Councilmember Albanaz, and thank you for your leadership and passion around this issue, and for your leadership as president of the council during some of those really tough days. So, you put your finger on one of the most frustrating issues that we faced for many years now, really over a decade, in terms of the inability to pass that comprehensive immigration bill, which is so important to enact, in our country. The whole history of that in terms of congressional action and inaction. We've gotten very close a couple times, but never gotten over the finish line. And, it's no secret that during the Trump years, it became virtually impossible to advance the comprehensive immigration bill. And during the last 2 years, even with President Biden in office, we made some bipartisan attempts to get it done, even pieces of it done, right? Even making sure that dreamers, are protected, making sure that folks who are here on TPS are protected. That's the bill that I introduced, the Secure Act. The good news, so we haven't been able to codify those protections. The good news in the last 2 years, of course, is we don't have a president and a executive branch that are trying to bring, lawsuits or ending things, ending protections for dreamers, or ending, protections for people here on temporary protective status. And thank goodness that during that 2-year period during the 4 years of the Trump administration, we had the courts, providing protection. So on the positive front, the Biden administration has restored a lot of those protections. On the continuing risk front, we've not codified them. In terms of the border and what's happening there, let me first of all thank all of you as leaders in Montgomery County for the support and assistance that you have provided, that you mentioned. We need a number of things at the border. We did provide some additional resources in the last appropriations bill in December for a lot of the towns along the border to be able to better accommodate the number of migrants seeking refuge in the United States. We need to deploy a lot more administrative judges so that determinations with respect to eligibility for asylum can be quickly determined, because right now that system is just totally overburdened. I mean, there's a huge backlog of cases. And so, that's actually been part of some bipartisan discussions, although we don't have enough yet Republicans on board. But I think most people recognize that, the faster you can, reach conclusions about who's eligible for asylum and who's not, really the better off the country is, and the better off people seeking asylum are. So the other piece of this, as I'm sure you've seen, is that, the Biden administration is now providing opportunities for people to apply for asylum from in-country. That started with Venezuela and now applies to Cuba, Haiti, and Nicaragua. So, that the result of that is that there have been fewer people who are making a dangerous trip to the border, and instead applying for asylum in country through the U.S. embassy and others, and that way they can try and get their claims for asylum processed in those countries. So look, that's not a substitute. There, as you know, there are controversial elements to what the Biden administration decided to do, but it is a way, I think, to provide more certainty and have people avoid a dangerous trip only to be denied asylum at the border. So long-term solution is to codify, is to pass the immigration reform bill. And that's what we got to keep working on. Again, I don't mean to be a broken record on the situation in the House, because we were, even, as I said, even the last 2 years in the Senate, we were not able to get immigration reform passed, but it will be doubly difficult to get something going now, given Speaker McCarthy's position.
Thank you, Councilmember Albornoz. Next up is the new District 6 Council member, Councilmember Fanny Gonzalez.
Thank you so much, Senator Chris Van Hollen. Always a pleasure to see you. And honestly, I wasn't going to bring this up, but since the last question was on immigration, let me remind you that I'm here thanks to you. I was being deported, and you were a congressman back then. And I remember Lily Cruz, who used to work in your office, took care of my case, and you were one of my heroes to ensure that I could stay and not be deported. So thank you. I will always be grateful to you. So that after that, I will say
we're so proud to see you on the council now. I just want to say thank you for all the great qualities, leadership qualities you're bringing to the job.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. So my question, actually, before even I say my question, I'm very grateful to Council President Evan Glass for emphasizing our efforts on ARPA-H. I would just add North Bethesda. That should be the location. Be more specific, North Bethesda, that's all. My question is on childcare. As you may know, I'm the chair of the Economic Development Committee for the County Council. And when we think about workforce development, we must think about the young folks. When Build Back Better was in motion, and as you all know, it didn't pass the Senate, there was a provision in the whole bill to put, I think it was $400 billion on childcare, but it didn't pass. So any efforts that you see that can provide that effort, we need money to ensure that kids get into pre-K so they can be ready to get into kindergarten. I know that you understand that, but anything else that we should be doing to push for that, it directly impacts our economic development platform. So, thank you.
Right, you put your finger on a critical issue. In fact, I was just speaking to members of my team earlier today on exactly this issue and how we can try to advance some measures in the Senate and the House, because it as you know, it impacts everybody. And we had two things happening during the American Rescue Plan that really provided some relief to families under financial stress and pressure. One, of course, was the child tax credit, which was universal and had lifted cut the childhood poverty level in half in the country. I mean, the goal should be able to eliminate it, but it cut it in half. But sadly, it only existed in place for that short period of time, for about a year. So, at the same time, the American Rescue Plan increased the amount of that families could qualify for under the Child Independent Care Tax Credit. The enhanced levels under that, the enhanced benefits, also have gone away. So we definitely need to modernize our child and dependent care system, right? Because there are families that obviously want to make sure that their kids are in a safe and secure and productive place, but also many families, with aging loved ones who need care, adult care. So that's why we're looking at ways to definitely modernize the child independent care tax credit for those individuals, and also increase on the child care side, the purchase of care program, which runs through the state of Maryland. It was a big help to people. We also need to push for increases in Head Start and early Head Start programs, which are really underfunded. If you look at the demand and need for those programs, it far outstrips the resources, especially when it comes to the early Head Start program. So we'll see. I'm glad that the state of Maryland is embarking on implementing the Kerwin Commission recommendations, and of course, our new governor has been committed to early education as well, universal early education. So at least at the state level, and I know this is a commitment for all of you, I think people are headed in the right direction. At the federal level, we made progress, but we have a long way to go. And I think we should. As I said, right now we're looking at ways that there may be some bipartisan opportunity in this area. Maybe. We're hoping. We're trying, and that's what I was talking to my team about earlier today.
We are hopeful too. Thank you very much, Councilmember Fani Gonzalez. Next up is a new member of the at-large, as a new at-large member, and that's Councilmember Sales.
All right. Good afternoon, Senator. How are you doing?
I am well. Great to have you on the council. Congratulations.
Thank you. So glad to have you as a colleague again. And I'm really glad for the work that you have done, over the last decade and a half with regards to getting the Green Bank up and running and getting the appropriate funding as we're trying to meet the needs of, being more environmentally friendly, and the climate action plan that was recently passed, and now the requirements for our builders as they are trying to adapt to the new building energy codes. And so I had a question for you, because I recently met with the county's Green Bank this past week, and wanted to talk with you about any additional funding or grant opportunities because of the electrification requirements that recently passed. How can we work with the federal government to ensure that these businesses are able to meet not just the local but the federal mandates, because it's going to be costly, even though the long-term benefits are there. Just wanted to hear a bit from you about any work that can be done from our end.
Sure. Well, thank you for bringing those issues. Of course, you worked on these issues in Gaithersburg and now at the council. So first, let me say, before I talk about the business side, on the individual homeowner and consumer side, we really need all of your help to try to notify all of our constituents about many of the opportunities that are going to be coming up. It's a little later this year. All of these, so these go to, for example, rebates on electric appliances that people can purchase for their homes for more energy efficiency. They're also going to be something I worked on. It's called the Hope for Homes Act, which is going to provide resources for more home energy audits, but way beyond audits than tax credits for making renovating people's homes to make them more energy efficient, things that will save people a lot of money in the long run on their electric bills. But right now, there's obviously, if you have a tight budget, having to put a lot of money out, all at once out front is hard, even though because the savings come in over a period of time, right? And so you need that upfront money to make the investment to improve energy efficiency of your home. And that's exactly what this provision of the Inflation Reduction Act is designed to do, is to help people with those upfront costs and there's an income range, depending on where you fall. The income ladder, the credit is adjusted.
Okay.
So they're working on all that. I just want to mention that because it is a big part of our effort to increase home energy efficiency and greater electrification. So in terms of businesses, there are also tax credit opportunities, and we're happy to follow up with you. In terms of the green bank, that could be a potential source of funding, certainly for businesses that wanted to become more energy efficient and meet the codes. We're in the process, really as we speak, of trying to figure out what the guidelines will be for the funds in the green under the umbrella of whether you call it a green bank or a clean energy accelerator. Those funds are the architecture for that whole entity is being determined right now. It's under the jurisdiction of the Environmental Protection Agency. The Inflation Reduction Act included about close to $20 billion for this. It's supposed to be a self-sustaining national entity. In other words, that it's not like just a grant fund that you put out the door. It's supposed to leverage the money, have a multiplier effect of 5 to 10 times the original capital investment. So, for example, banks could loan money at lower cost to a business, and then the business can recoup, through energy savings, help pay it back. So there may be opportunities there, but again, this is still they're still standing up the structure of this entity and trying to decide exactly how the funds will be allocated. So let's keep in touch.
Definitely. Thank you so much, Senator.
Sure.
Thank you, Councilmember Sales. Next is the new council member from District 2, Councilmember Balcom.
Hey, good afternoon, Senator Van Hollen. So nice to see you. And it's always sunny in Germantown, too, so keep that in mind. So just a brief comment on something that Councilmember Fenny Gonzalez mentioned, and that's the, and you mentioned the development community in terms of reimbursement rates and trying to get more funding. I did have a conversation today with the adult daycare community, and two things. One is Medicare coverage for adult daycare, but also reimbursement rates for Medicaid, and particularly in areas of high expense. We can't get workers to do these very difficult jobs in adult daycare and developmental daycare. So that's just one issue, and I know you're working on it, and I appreciate your efforts. But I did want to turn to the fentanyl crisis nationally. We had a family forum up in Clarksburg last weekend, and we had over 500 people come, families. It was a family forum. And one of the issues that our police talked about was just supply. And the drugs are coming in from out of the country, and we just need to stem the flow of the drugs coming in. I don't know what your thoughts are on that. And I know that it's a national issue. It's just really hitting home right now in Montgomery County.
Right. No. Well, Councilmember Balcom, it's good to see you. Congratulations to you. And the opioid epidemic, and obviously fentanyl, has made that much more deadly and acute. Is hitting Montgomery County. It's hitting Maryland. It's hitting the country. Nationally, we are seeing some decrease in overdoses, but every overdose is one too many, and it's still at epidemic proportions. So it's not, Senator Cardin and I and Congressman Trone were up in Frederick County just earlier this week because we'd secured some funds for what was called the Crisis Stabilization Center there to try to provide emergency support for people who are overdosing or having other crisis, if not linked to opioids, to other drugs because of the lack of complete hospital capacity, and just having a place for people to go if they don't need emergency hospital treatment but do need help. And I know the same situation is true in Montgomery County, and I know that you're all working on trying to provide those kind of alternatives to hospital care where you can. So in terms of the supply, the bottom line is people are trying to crack down at the border. And I do want to say most of the fentanyl that comes across the border overwhelmingly comes through legal. It's not people crossing the border illegally, right? It's going through authorized border crossings, and the folks at Customs and Border Patrol do their very best, and try to deploy the latest technology to be able to detect drugs, including fentanyl. But as you know, very small amount of fentanyl can do a huge amount of damage. And we're trying to deploy resources, but it is very, very difficult. And again, I want to stress this is coming through legal border crossings where cars are being checked. And that's why you read, regularly about them, successfully intercepting fentanyl. But the reality is that it's a lucrative business for the people who are peddling this stuff. And so, yes, we need to work on supply, but we also need to do our best on the demand side and do our very best to, prevent our residents from, number one, getting addicted in the first place. Number two, provide opportunities for people to end their addiction. This is, we need drug treatment, and we need a health model for doing that. We did provide more resources and authority to use, medical reimbursement, federal reimbursement for medical intervention. So I know I'm just restating the challenge in some ways, but we are trying to do what we can at the federal level on the supply side, and on the treatment side. I know you are as well. I know the county devotes a lot of resources to this effort, and I want to thank all of you.
And I think also on the demand side, it's the teenagers who just don't think it's dangerous. And I think that's where we might be able to do some education of the one pill can kill message that kids just aren't getting. So I appreciate everything that you're doing.
Well, no, that's a very good point. And I think there are both national and I think state and local advertising campaigns to try to get exactly that message across. And, we need to do it in our schools. We need to do it in community centers. We need to do it everywhere because it is just so toxic and so deadly.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Balcom. Next is still the District 3 council member, Sidney Katz, but I also just want to say that there are a number of other council members in the queue, and I know the senator has a hard stop at 4, so just want to be mindful of that. Councilmember Katz.
Thank you. I have learned along the way what that means, Mr. President. Thank you very much. And Senator, it's always good to see you, and thank you not for just being here today, but you're with us all the time, and we appreciate it. We're actually meeting with Senator Cardin next week as well, and you all are truly our partners, and we appreciate it. We're all still horribly disgusted by the horrendous, brutal murder of Tyree Nichols. We're very fortunate in Montgomery County to have a very fine and well-trained police force, but we know that there's been renewed discussions about the possibility of some federal legislation on public safety. So could you please give us some of your thoughts and insights on what might happen?
Well, thank you for your leadership. Good to have you back, Councilmember Katz. And I mentioned now Councilmember Sales in Gaithersburg. I remember working with you when you were mayor up there. And so, look, what happened to Tyree Nichols was just despicable, a national scandal. But as we know, another reminder of the work that we need to do when it comes to having effective policing. And yes, there was a very important piece of legislation that we worked on in the last 2 years, the George Floyd Justice in Policing Act. Unfortunately, while we did make some progress in the negotiations, we were not able to get the 10 Republican votes that we needed in the Senate to overcome a filibuster to pass the bill that did come out of the House, right? The House passed the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. I do think that this recent awful murder of Tyree Nichols has definitely reignited the urgency around this conversation, and we're all hoping that it will help overcome some of the disagreements that torpedoed the earlier effort. And in the Senate, if we can get something in the Senate passed with over 60 votes, maybe even with this Republican House, that would create some momentum. And there is room for negotiation on some pieces of that legislation. So again, I'm hoping the tragedy of the moment will help create that pressure. I will say one of the things that I've worked on as a part of that bill was an effort to create more 911 diversion programs, so that it was a bill that would incentivize more jurisdictions, states, counties, towns, cities to develop systems that would send, in appropriate circumstances where law enforcement and a police response is not necessary, like a lot of the mental health situations that people encounter, that we would send people who are expert in dealing with those issues, even as we also train police to be more, to deal with that dimension of situation. And that would actually allow the police to use their resources to go after, violent criminals, and not use their resources to respond to cases that don't require, again, a police type, response, but maybe mental health counselors. There's so many, as you know, you've seen those situations, so many of these situations that unnecessarily escalate and lead to unjust results are situations that clearly could be avoided if we had a different, way of responding, or if everyone who was responding was properly trained. So we are providing, through some of our earmark efforts, we provided resources. I was able to secure funds to help the Baltimore City in theirs, and we welcome an effort to work with you directly on that, even as we work on the national legislation. And I'm sorry to the president of the I'm the one causing the problem. I'm telling my team I'll have a few more minutes, but I'll try and shorten my answers. All good questions. No surprises. All good questions. Thank you all.
You are a senator. You're allowed to go long. It's part of the job. But thank you very much. Thank you, Councilmember Katz. And next is your district council member, District 4 council member, Stewart.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Senator, for being here with us today. And I want to add what my colleagues have said about your amazing staff, Ashma. And I was actually also just emailing about a constituent issue today with Diana. So we are just so thrilled, not just to have you as a senator, but your amazing team. So thank you so much for that. And I just want to echo my colleague, Councilmember Fanny Gonzalez, and just put a plug in for ARPA-H in North Bethesda. We would love to see it here. There's so many things to ask you about, but one thing I would like to ask you about, also wearing my hat as the board chair for COG right now, you have been a huge champion for WMATA and our metro system, in the region, and we know because of COVID and other things, it has, ridership is down. But in order for us to really keep our strong transportation infrastructure and to, attract projects like ARPA-H, we need to make sure that we also have a strong metro system. And so just curious if you have some thoughts on that or other things that we could look at in the region.
Well, thank you, Councilmember Stewart, and that's great. Congratulations. It was always great to work with you when you were mayor of Tacoma Park and now in your new capacity. You got a great team here I'm looking at. And of course, we worked with you a little bit on the Tacoma Park Metro station issues back in the day. Look, the good news is the infrastructure modernization bill reauthorized the federal commitment to WMATA. And, we're trying to make sure that they have the resources they need to expand and to, buy the new cars, the new rail cars. One of the issues, and I'm sure you've been seeing it in the paper and through COG, you've got this constant tension right now between, WMATA and the safety entity that was established to sort of oversee safety, and I think we're trying to encourage those two to not be adversarial. I mean, obviously you want an oversight function, but not to be adversarial, and to try to work things out in a way that definitely ensures safety, first, but also, make sure that we maintain the reliability and effectiveness of the system. So we're going to be encouraging the federal delegation, to get those two groups to work more closely together, because right now they're not. Right now it just seems to be it's a total battle every day. But welcome your thoughts on the future of Metro. One of the big challenges, Ellen, this, but the American Rescue Plan saved WMATA just like it saved transit systems throughout the country. There were no riders. I shouldn't say there were no riders. There were a lot people who had to get to work to do their jobs, the frontline workers. People were still on the buses, people were still on transit systems, but way reduced, right? So the money's coming into WMATA and transit systems just crashed. So that's the American Rescue Plan kept everybody going. Now we have a real problem because ridership has still not gotten back to where it was. And you're seeing more and more of this about, the mayor of Washington, D.C. and vacant office space. So anyway, this is a challenge. We're going to have to figure out what the new normal is. But that's a big part of the future questions for WMATA. How much of that ridership is going to return?
Thank you, Councilmember Stewart. Next is the new council member from District 5 in East County, Councilmember Mink.
Thank you, President Glass and Senator Van Hollen. Thank you so much for finding the time to be on here. I will try to be quick. I know that we are over time and really appreciate everything that you've said so far and all the good work you've been doing. And I've appreciated being able to work so well with your office as well in my previous role with the Center for Popular Democracy. Wanted to certainly lean into the remark you made about the work you're doing with Baltimore City and your earmark efforts there. I'm also a member of the Public Safety Committee with my colleagues Chair Katz and Councilmember Luedeke. And as you know, we are working hard here to be able to flesh out our civilian response teams, our mobile crisis teams, to be able to really be responsive. And so we're working to try to, we're adding kind of one team at a time, but of course we're a large county, we're a populous county, and to really be able to put in place the infrastructure that is needed and the true diversion program that's really needed, we have to be able to be responsive all over the county quickly. So certainly an earmark effort there. We would love to, I'm sure, partner with you to think about how we could really help to move Montgomery County forward in a big way to be able to cover the whole county. And I will mention also that I was just in a community meeting with the commander in our district who said that absolutely he echoes that, and his quote was, "We want to get police out of mental health response." So I think that sentiment is obviously where appropriate, but I think that sentiment is certainly being heard. Good use of time. Wanted to circle back to adult medical daycare and see if you had any thoughts on that and the efforts to have Medicare coverage there, especially because there would be a tremendous cost savings there. Adult daycare is so much cheaper when compared to home care or nursing homes. And we have some really fantastic providers here that are looking to expand, and they're actually working to build a nationwide coalition right now of adult medical daycare providers to work on pushing Congress in that direction as well. They're looking actively for a champion in Congress, and we have some of the leaders of that effort here in Montgomery County. So I wondered if you had any thoughts on that.
So, Councilmember Mink, thank you for your comments on the situation with diversion of, when it comes to emergency response and crisis response, making sure we have a better system to do that, and look forward to working with you on that front. So when you're talking about adult daycare, are you talking about out of the home? Is that what you? Yeah.
Correct. So it's just daycare, it's medical daycare, but it allows them to come home at the end of the day.
Right. So, this was also a piece of the larger Build Back Better legislation, although that also included in-home care and increasing support for adult daycare providers, whether they were in-home or in centers. And Bob Casey, Senator Casey, had a piece of legislation that dealt with a big piece of that, which I support. I'm happy to work with you to try to expand this. Right now, Medicare coverage, as you know, it does provide some coverage, but it's on a short-term basis, an emergency basis, really, when people, when you come out of the hospital or if your in-home care person gets, sick, you can, on an emergency basis, use some Medicare funding to go to an adult care center. But you're right; it's not a continuous system. Although I do think that what you're talking about is something we definitely need to look at, because we have an aging population, and there's going to be a lot more pressure put on the system. So happy to tap into some of that expertise, and Ashima can follow up with you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thank you. We have two more colleagues. Next up is Councilmember Jawando.
Hey, Senator, good to see you. Thank you for being with us and just being such a great supporter. I'll be very quick so that we can let you go. Good thing about going last is close to last is a lot of good things have been said. Just would emphasize you continuing to raise your voice on the federal bill related to George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. I just think we have an opportunity, based on what we've done in the state, our new governor, what we've done in Montgomery County, to really be an outsized voice and showing examples of how you can have a different model and how some of these things can work. And with a little more support, we can start to change and get better outcomes. So appreciate that. Also just wanted to quickly say we are having a joint hearing on the fentanyl in the schools issue at the end of the month, Joint Education and Culture Committee that I chair, and also with Health and Human Services that Councilmember Albornoz chairs, and I think we're even going to try to get public safety as a part of it as well. But it's an issue we all care about, and I think that's another opportunity for us to lead and show and have a real outsized voice in raising the importance of that issue. Even though deaths are down nationally, we're seeing obviously an increase for our young people, really disheartening trend. So thank you for all you do. I'll follow up with your great team on other issues, but just wanted to put those two bugs in your ear. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Councilmember Jawando, and congratulations on your reelection. Congratulations on your 40th birthday. Spring chicken still,
Thank you.
So, yeah, look, on the issue of opioid epidemic and overdoses in general, as you're saying, as you're doing, we need a better system on prevention, and we need a better system on intervention and treatment. And we have a lot of work to be done. So I look forward to working with you and the new governor. We will continue to press, as I said, on the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act, just as we all need to continue to press on criminal justice reform at both the federal and the state level, and maybe at the county level too. But we've got a lot of work still to do when it comes to criminal justice reform, in my view. And I know that's an issue that you've been passionate about as well.
Absolutely. More to come. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Jawando. Last question from our colleague is the new District 7 Council member, Don Ludke.
Hi, Senator. Thank you so much for joining us. And I'll try to keep this brief. And I know we've touched upon Medicare and Medicaid in other contexts, whether it be adult daycare, adult medical daycare, and reducing costs by actually expanding coverage in a different direction. And the need, of course, for prevention and intervention services, both in the substance use disorder context with our opioid epidemic, and of course in the overall mental behavioral health space. One of my question is, at the state of Maryland, there was a law that was passed last year to explore expanding use of Medicaid funding for violence interruption program, and that being another constituent piece of the overall prevention and intervention in our mental behavioral health space. So given the totality of the questions you've had here on Medicare and Medicaid, can we get your commitment to working through revisions that are both cost-saving and focus more on the preventive side of coverage for our Medicare and Medicaid programs, so that we can better tackle these overall broad public health issues?
So, Councilmember Lukey, congratulations to you. And yes, I look forward to working with you on that. It's interesting. In some of these cases, Medicare and Medicaid need to be expanded in a number of ways systematically, and I look forward to working with you on that piece. There are also just gaps in some of these areas, I just go back to this meeting we had earlier this week at the Crisis Stabilization Center in Frederick, where we learned, and I'm talking about we, Senator Cardin and David Trone and I, that when it came to reimbursement under Medicare, if the person on the other end of the phone was I think it was a sociology specialist or a social worker specialist, Medicare reimbursed, whereas if they were just a counselor, or if they were a counselor in the category and they didn't get reimbursed. When in fact, they have lots of people who can do the job and help people who are in need, and it made no sense to draw this distinction, at least according to those experts, and I'm sure you're finding the same thing. So what I'm saying is we work with you to try and plug. That should be a gap. We all went away with a to-do list on fixing that problem, while we also try to deal with the more system-wide issues in terms of Medicare and Medicaid.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Well, Senator, you survived all 11 of us, so you deserve a weekend ahead of you. And I think this is Senator's weekend, because we're ending Friday having this conversation with you, and we're going to start Monday with a conversation with Senator Cardin. And the both of you combined make a great team, and you had referenced the great team that we have here at the council. And it is an honor and pleasure to serve with all of my colleagues here in Rockville alongside you, and the members of Congress who represent Montgomery County, Congressman Raskin, Trone, and Ivy as well, representing parts of East County. And I know together we're going to continue doing great things, serving all of our residents and constituents. So thank you for joining us this afternoon, and thank you for all the work you're doing in the Senate.
Well, thank you, and I hope you will grill Senator Cardin just as hard. I'll give you some additional questions as well, but no. Thank you all, really, and congratulations, and look forward to working with you. We got a lot of work to do, but I know we can get it done. So thank you all so much. Have a great weekend.
Thank you all very much.
Thanks. Bye.
Yeah.
This meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.
The commute.
Watch for the news.